Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. How's Eddie Frederick?
So glad you can join us. A breath of fresh air as the ECCB predicts some form of growth next year. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Tuesday, 28th December 2022. Details when we return.
Win prizes weekly with the Dutch Lady Christmas promotion. You can win hampers, kitchen appliances, and much more. Here's how to win. Visit our Facebook and Instagram pages weekly to retrieve the recipe. Follow the recipe. Submit the final dish via email at dlchristmaspromotion@gmail.com, along with proof of purchase of Dutch Lady UHT or 410 evaporated milk. Recipes will be judged based on the display. Winners will be selected each week to battle for the grand prize in a live cooking show hosted by the creative chef. Look out for the Dutch Lady Santa Claus at supermarkets island-wide. The promotion runs from November 16th to December 21st, 2022. And once again, we'd like to congratulate the winner of last year's Dutch Lady Christmas promotion, Miss Brianna Bihari. Dutch Lady Milk, proudly distributed by Hubbard's Agency.
Welcome back. Eastern Caribbean Central Bank is optimistic about economic growth for 2023. More in this Andre Huey report from SKN Newsline.
The governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, ECCB, Timothy Antoine, in his Christmas message, is expressing optimism of economic growth in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, ECCU, for 2023. The ECCB governor said the ECCU will experience growth between 3 and 6%.
Now, even as our region navigates the lingering effects of the pandemic, it is confronting high and stubborn inflation that is decimating the income of our most vulnerable households and businesses. This inflation spike has also placed ECCU member governments under renewed fiscal pressure as the public finances were starting to recover. That said, our EC dollar remains strong, and our region continued its recovery from the pandemic with growth of about 6%.
Mr. Antoine also talked about the issue of global inflation plaguing the world post-pandemic.
In terms of economic prospects, we project the ECCU will grow by between 3 and 5%. This range reflects significant uncertainty and downside risks. The growth performance will be influenced by geopolitical factors and the extent to which major central banks, particularly the US, the Fed, could reduce inflation while avoiding or minimizing a recession. Now, as we look ahead, the ECCB will assiduously pursue its resilience and transformation agenda, which includes fairer treatment of customers by financial institutions through a new market conduct framework, faster progress on renewable energy to enhance energy security, lower emissions, and reduce energy costs. More progress on the greening of our financial system to respond to the climate crisis and preserve financial stability. And payments modernization as part of a broader effort to build out a digital economy for shared prosperity.
The governor thanked his team at the ECCB, including the executive, management, staff, and interns for their hard work, as well as the board and the Monetary Council for their support over the past year. I'm Andre Huey for SKN Newsline.
An illegal marriage ring has been uncovered in St. Kitts and Nevis. Joel Vogt of HGP Nightly News has more.
Moving over to St. Kitts and Nevis, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Terence Drew, says the authorities have uncovered a ring resulting in illegal marriages taking place on the island and raising the possibility that the Twin Island Federation is being used for human trafficking. The Prime Minister, who is also Minister of National Security and Immigration, told Parliament the illegal marriages involved individuals from the Spanish community that allows them to be granted citizenship and voting rights. PM Drew told the legislator that the non-citizens then get married, resulting in the payment of more money. He also added that from the time they get married, the same day, sometimes in their wedding garments, go for their marriage certificate after receiving the certificate of marriage, as well as their certificate of citizenship and their identification card. Once they go for their ID, they are paid a certain sum of money and for their names to be included on an electoral list to vote. Prime Minister Drew said that while it is possible that some of the marriages are genuine, some of the individuals involved in the marriage ring have been abusing the system by marrying and divorcing several times to gain money. Drew said that he had a meeting with the Latino community in St. Kitts and Nevis and explained to them what the government had identified. He also said that conversations with some of the Spanish nationals proved that there is no real relationship between them and their marriage partner.
Sam Backman-Fried extradited to the United States to stand trial as his FTX goes bankrupt, tying up U.S. citizens' investments in the scheme. Fern Carey of ZNS News provides some details.
FTX founder Samuel Bankman-Fried now on his way to the United States after waiving his right to formal extradition proceedings in the magistrate court today. During the hearing before Magistrate Shaka Seville this morning, Bankman-Fried's attorney Jerome Roberts said his client was waiving his right to formal extradition proceedings because he wanted to, quote, make the relevant customers whole. The former FTX CEO also took the witness stand today, affirming that he waived his right to formal extradition proceedings voluntarily. He gave his occupation as entrepreneur, indicating that his address at this time is still up in the air. After he satisfied the court that his decision was voluntary, he was then committed for extradition. Now, once the FTX founder lands in the United States, he is expected to face formal charges in a New York court tomorrow morning related to the collapse of FTX. Now, we understand that Bankman-Fried's legal team is trying to work out a deal with federal prosecutors to have him released on bail, and that should include strict bail conditions, including house arrest and electronic monitoring. For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Frank Carey.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Amid responses to the Minister of National Security's comments that at least 70% of the population doesn't support the fight against crime, the Archbishop of Port of Spain says the onus is on you, the citizen. He adds that it's misplaced to put the blame for murders on the minister, as each individual ought to feel a responsibility to a society in which they live. Urvashitawari Rupnarayan of TV6 News reports.
The Archbishop of Port of Spain, Jason Gordon, says the onus on solving murders ought not to be placed on the police commissioner, the national security minister, or even the prime minister.
Every good citizen wants the commissioner of police, the Minister of National Security, and the Prime Minister to solve the murder problem. They cannot solve it until we, the citizens, are willing to recognize that the murder problem has its roots in a more fundamental challenge: injustice that pervades the whole of the nation. This is a we problem, and only we, the citizens, can solve it. And to do that, we must commit to justice.
He was at the time addressing the annual general meeting of the Trinidad and Tobago Transparency Institute.
It is my considered view that the core challenges facing our nation is that we, the citizens, have not committed to justice on the individual level, the level of the organization, or of the nation. This lack of commitment of the citizens to justice has become a cancer eating the body politic of our beloved Trinidad and Tobago.
Father Gordon says in the quest for transparency, much more is needed.
If we want transparency, we also need whistleblower legislation that allows for corruption to be exposed with a sense of safety. Also, we need effective procurement legislation to ensure transparency and integrity.
The Archbishop says everything in this country, from getting a driver's license to planning permission, is reflective of the ease of doing business in TNT and not in a good way.
We need a national campaign to promote justice as a virtue lived by every citizen. If Transparency Institute Trinidad and Tobago intends to achieve its goal, then it needs to work with all people, groups, and institutions We need this to be led by the example of the elites of our society.
Urvashi Tiwari, Rupnarayan, TV6 News.
It is time for the people of Tobago to hold their leaders to account. This, according to head of the Tobago Division of the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, Diane Haddad. TV6's Nicole M. Romney tells us more.
Ms. Haddad says the citizens have had enough of politicians making promises they don't keep. And as the country looks toward the new year, this time round, things must be different.
For 2023, I really wish that everybody will make a particular decision before the close of the 31st that they are going to want better for themselves and they are prepared to get up and work for it. And therefore, the demand of the leaders that put themselves up, or supposed leaders, or wish to be leaders, that we will call them to accountability at all times. And I want to say that, people are saying, but you all left the PNM there for 21 years to do what they wanted, and now you all are not giving Farley and their chance. The point is, I think that's what has happened. People are no longer prepared to give you 21 years in Tobago.
Ms. Haddad tells us that the political dispute between the Chief Secretary and the political leader of the PDP is costing Tobago.
And if they could not resolve that, it means they can't resolve the issues of the island. So that is a bigger problem for us in terms of investments. We also have, up to last night, I had somebody call me from the United States, a Tobagonian, who is into fintech and technology and so on, looking for coming back in terms of investment and so. And they're concerned that investments on the island will have very serious questions. So let us understand that it is affecting even fellow Tobagonians who are out there and wish to come back and do any sort of investments.
The head of the Tobago arm of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce has some advice for the Chief Secretary with regard to outstanding payments to contractors. Earlier this year, Mr. Augustine said preliminary findings of an audit indicated there was corruption, nepotism and fraud in the millions of dollars. She says a commitment was made to pay the contractors for the work done, and they should be paid.
We do have to understand that they are, what they call it, iron in bags, iron on the blocks, right?
Yes.
So we have to be careful as to bring a balance, and I would have explained that to him as well. Bring a balance as to how we are going to treat with it. And should you encounter an audit that has questions in it, then rightfully so you do what you have to do because you represent the rest of us. So nothing is wrong with that. But you can't keep people promises by word, then by letter, and you keep none. That speaks to your integrity now.
Nicole M. Romney, TV6 News.
Jamaica's police commissioner signals intent to recommend more SOEs as a mechanism to fight crime, which is inching into taking over Jamaica. More in this Anthony Logg TVJ report.
The SOEs, which were implemented on December 6 to cauterize the bloodletting across the island, ended on Tuesday, and since then, many Jamaicans have been wondering what's next. This was Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson following a visit to the Trelawney Divisional Headquarters on Thursday.
Where we have had an SOE in place, I am certainly going to ask that we declare again in some of those spaces. We might change the boundaries a bit, but there are still places where the problem hasn't gone away, and we're going to need those measures again in the last part of the year and into the first part of next year.
With thousands of police deployed across the island to combat crime and ease traffic congestion over the holiday period, it's left to be seen how things will unfold in the days ahead. In the meantime, Major General Anderson is insisting the operations will continue.
So we should be seeing declines in parishes, whether there's an SOE in place or not, because the ones where the SOE are, that's what's necessary there. In the ones where that's not what is necessary, we use other methods.
Meanwhile, with growing concerns about migrating criminals in Trelawney, Head of the Area 1 Police, Assistant Commissioner Clifford Chambers, says several persons have been nabbed.
We will continue to have border blocks. We'll continue to have cross-division activity. And so when St. James is doing well, we'll be expecting Trelawney to be doing well, as also Westmoreland and Hanover. So it is that cross-divisional effort and our linked investigation that will continue our posture going into the end of the year and the beginning of 2023.
Anthony Lugg, TVJ News.
The Food Fair Shop and Win promotion is back, better than ever. We are giving away $30,000 in prizes with the promotional activities you know and love, like find the misplaced items, spin the wheel, and other exciting in-store activities. You can win hams, turkeys, vouchers, cooking gas from Sol, and lunch packages from the Creative Chef. The promotion runs from November 16th to December 23rd, 2022. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.